Yo, what's good YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we are looking at the Pulsar X3. And so here's what the box looks like. It's just all standard if you've opened a Pulsar before. This is where the cable is. The dongle goes up here. I have it out here. Fortunately, this is only compatible with 1K out the box. Next, you get the cable out. You get their classic braided cable with the stress relief. And you get a bunch of random shit. You get the Pulsar sticker. Get like the trading card, like the IRL NFT or some shit. And all the blah 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 manuals, stuff like that. Look, let's cut these out. These are causing manufacturing costs. Let's just throw in a separate set of skates in. If you've watched me before, you know in all my videos, I'm always advocating for companies to put an extra set of skates in the box for the users. More people are using glass pads nowadays, so that's going to mean you're going to need more skates faster. And just in general, if someone's buying a mouse for $100 to $150 nowadays, they're going to want to use that mouse for multiple years. And after multiple years, you're going to need a new set of skates. So let's just, especially if you're throwing in a bunch of this random stuff that no one wants or needs, let's just get some skates in there. I'll throw up a little text on the screen showing you which companies give you extra skates and which ones don't. To my knowledge, obviously it's not going to be comprehensive. Other than that, it is the new XS1 flagship sensor. It's just a 3950, 55 grams, blah blah blah, compatible up to 8K polling. This is an issue I have with gaming mice companies. If you're going to advertise the high polling rate on the box, I think, in my opinion, it should come with the high polling rate dongle. I don't think it should be $20 like they sell it for. Just throw up the price like $10, $110 with the 4K or 8K polling rate dongle nowadays. That would be good. It says optical switches here. This one comes with the KL optical switches according to the website. If you watch my X-Lite V4 video, I was wrong. They don't actually use the KL opticals. Those still use the ratios for some reason. This is the page for the X-Lite V4. Like I said, if you look, it'll just say fast and double click free optical switch. This is the page for the X3. And like I said, it's going to say 80 million click KL optical switch. So yeah, this is a big complaint I had in the Pulsar X-Lite V4 video. If you watched that, you've known I've been very critical of Pulsar. And it's just confusing how they just spit out so many mice and they have like small inconsistencies, or they don't fix issues, or like in the X-Lite V4, they downgrade the clicks from the X-Lite V3 version. So yeah, a lot of you guys were thinking I'm just hating on Pulsar, but you know, that review comes from a place of wanting them to improve. I just want them to, you know, lock in on the quality, lock in on the QC, lock in on the click quality, because they have a lot of potential. They just come up short by, you know, making too many models without enough revisions or locking in the quality, like I said, enough in my opinion. So onto the mouse. Obviously it's a G703 shape, and you know, it is a little bit different if you have both in hand and you're A/B testing them, but in my opinion, they might as well be clones, right? Because when I grab it and I feel some characteristics of this, it just reminds me exactly of the G703, which I don't have because I wasn't really that big of a person on the G703 like other people tend to be. So I wasn't a big fan of the shape because I feel like the hump is like too sharp and tall. I would like it like wider and more spread out for your palm. That's why I'm an EC fan instead of, you know, a G703 fan. But if you want to, you know, have an ergo where you have a bit less palm contact and a looser claw grip like this, as you can see, my palm is like not really contacting as much. You know, you get that maneuverability. Along with the low button height of this mouse, you get a really nice claw grip mouse. Like I said, the front half of the shape is great because of that low button height. I do think the flaring out on the right side is a little bit weird. And it's one of the, you know, parts of the mouse that really forces you into an angled grip. You can see it a lot more if I flip the mouse upside down. This corner just looks like it's flying out, you know, while the rest of the shape is just like in harmony, I guess. I will say though, if you do like a full palm grip, like with your fingers straight and everything, this shape is also good for that. And the last thing I don't like about the shape is that it kind of feels like a banana. Like I showed you, when you full palm grip it, it's like you can tell it's curved. And I feel like that's why they stick out the right corner. And also you can kind of see that the sensor angle is impacted by this shape, like this banana feel of the mouse. Here's a diagram comparison of me holding the Pulsar X-Lite V3 versus the X3, and you can just see the angle between my wrist and the sensor position, right? Now in using the mouse, you know, there's just, you know, I don't think it's a make or break. You just pick up the mouse and you're gonna notice it. If you're coming from a mouse that has like a more perpendicular angle to your wrist, or if you're on this mouse and you want to switch back to another mouse like that, then you're just going to have some adjustment period. That's all it is. It's just an adjustment period, not a deal breaker, but just something to note. So now that we're up to here on this review, you know, this is basically just a modernized G703. If you were a G703 like religious person, like praying to the church every day that Logitech would release the G703 Superlight, You can basically stop watching the review and just get this, because you just have no other options, right? Like, look, it's modern, has optical clicks, supports high polling rates, but you got to get the extra dongle, which I kind of don't like, but it's 55 grams. The shape is basically the same, and the coating is good on this mouse. Anyways, on to a bit more details. If you are not a religious G703 person, the build is improved with the X3. Pulsar made a note to improve the build quality in the 2024 and 2025 generation of Pulsar mice, and that's apparent here as well. So the creaking was the main thing. Like when I squeeze this, it feels solid. Will it eventually creak over time? I can't say for sure. You're going to have to watch like long-term reviews or ask people who use the mouse for a long term. What I also like is that they close off the base now with this clear plastic. The only thing I'm confused about is I'm not sure why exactly they use this clear plastic instead of just closing off the entire base. It looks like there is some adhesive and like more parts to make, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows to make with adhesive and printing the, the information on the bottom. Maybe it is lighter, but I don't think it would be significant enough not to just make a solid base. Now, why is this important? It's because if you look at the Pulsar X3 V3, this was a mouse with an open base and the internals got very, very dusty. And what does that mean? A scroll wheel that can get dust in it. I don't remember what scroll wheel they use on the X3 V3, but I started getting skipped inputs on my scroll wheel, so I did have to replace it. As you can see, I have new skates on there too. Speaking of the skates, that is something I wish they would improve, not necessarily the skate itself, but you see these skates have lips on them. And what this is just going to do is make it a lot more scratchy when you use a soft pad or X-soft pad and you kind of dig into the pad. Another mouse that has it is obviously the GPX2, GPX Dex, GPX, and people really hate that mouse for being scratchy on soft and X-soft pads. Most of the reason, in my opinion, is because of that lip. And what ends up happening is people say, oh, on Logitech GPX, you have to get core pads. But if you just get core pads, it fixes the issues because the skate becomes thicker, right? Anyways, it fixes the issue because these skates are thicker, making the pad contact the ridges less. So this is going to be a lot smoother on soft and X-soft pads now because I have a thicker skate. That's why people say, oh, if you get core pads on GPX, it'll fix the skates, and then they blame the skates. When you shouldn't blame the skates, you should be blaming that these little ridges are scratching your pad if you have thinner feet. Now, I'm not saying Logitech shouldn't change their skates. They definitely should, because they should be more rounded, they should be a bit thicker, but they should also be getting rid of this ledge, just like Pulsar should. So on the X3, you don't have to worry about dust getting in the mouse and ruining your encoder. Also, this encoder is a lot quieter than the Pulsar X3 V3, so I do enjoy that. The only thing is that it is a bit low. So if you're playing Apex, which no one does anymore these days, or some game that you have to spam your scroll wheel bind, then it might be a bit of an adjustment period there. Again, what I don't like about the scroll wheel is this rubber design. It has a lot of little grooves, and me with sweaty hands, I tend to get a lot of gunk in there. Going on to the clicks, you guys know I've had a lot of gripes with Pulsar's click implementation, especially the X-Lite V4 downgrading from the X-Lite V3. So these, like I said, are using the Kale opticals, and it's kind of confusing because the X-Lite V4 is still using the ratios. And not only that, but Pulsar is now teasing their proprietary switch on Twitter. This is where I kind of have some criticisms for Pulsar, because your click feel is not bad because of this switch. Like, they're scrambling to switch the switch, when instead they should just be focusing on how the click is implemented in the mouse. If you don't know, if you haven't watched a lot of gaming mouse content, the click feel is more dependent on the click implementation, how the plastic is internally, rather than the switch itself. You can have really good switches with a bad implementation and they feel like shit. Or you can just have standard Omron 20Ms from 1,000 years ago with a really good implementation and those clicks will feel incredible. Pulsar is just scrambling to throw in a new switch, but especially in the X-Lite V4, they just made a worse implementation with the same ratio switch in the X-Lite V3, which I was really confused about. And in here, the Kale opticals are pretty good and the implementation is decent. I would say when I first took this off the box, it was really bad and stiff, but it has loosened up a little bit and gotten better over time over the course of about 1 to 2 weeks of using the mouse. But what I will say is that the right click is still much stiffer than the left click, and I really dislike this. While this will help you in a game like Valorant where you don't want to ADS on accident, that is just one game, and in a lot of games you have to spam right click and say MOBAs like Dota or League of Legends or whatever you might be playing. If you're spamming the right click a lot, then you're definitely going to feel like you need some adjustment period because this is very stiff. So yeah, this is at least a passable click implementation in my opinion. I think the X-Lite V4 was like a crime against humanity to release, especially when it's a clear downgrade from the X-Lite V3. Oh yeah, and the side clicks, I really enjoy these. These are kind of copying the buttons of the G703, which are like big and round. I love how they come out curved as well. If you look at the X-Lite V3, they are kind of like angled instead of curved. Put some pressure, I can hit the top button If I put some pressure behind, then I can hit the back button. It's like very easy to hit both buttons without much thumb movement in this mouse. So if you're someone who does like to use thumb buttons a lot, this would be a good mouse for you because your aim doesn't really have to change. Some people don't like using side binds because it is going to change your aim if you're trying to aim and you have to like move your thumb over like this to hit the buttons. Whereas this mouse, you're just, press the front one or press the back one easily. So yeah, if you use binds, you don't want your aim to change while you're using the binds, this is a good mouse. This would be a good mouse for Fortnite if you use the side buttons for building or something like that. And then the middle click, I don't know, it feels cheap. I don't know what's in there, but yeah, this feels great. I know this is a Huano switch because I've opened this mouse before. The middle click does feel downgraded from the previous gen, but I think they moved on to a cheaper switch to kind of cut down the cost because not many people use the middle switch. But yeah, for the overall package for $100 retail, for that price, it's only supporting 1000 hertz, but most people in the entire planet only need that. Even if you throw in the dongle for $20, it is $120. The trade-off is that the other premium brands, a lot of them, most of them in my opinion, have way better clicks than this. So it really depends if you're religious about the G703 or you really care about having perfect quality across the board, click quality, scroll wheel quality, something like that. Like I said again before, if you're religious about the G703, your choice is clear. For everyone else, I think you need to weigh your options, especially with so many good EC clones on the market.